Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm Aggelos, founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and we are coming to you live from the Mighty Beard Tavern, and I have with me my amazing co-host, Stormslord. How are you?
Doing great after Christmas, doing great.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's been crazy, absolutely crazy. But we also have the one, the only Crojack.
I'm not on the outside. I don't know how to feel. I'm inside and I'm being flanked by two people. This is weird. I don't know how to react.
They both have that Bone Crusher mace too.
Don't get me started. Come on.
We also have Kelador. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing really good.
Excellent, excellent. We got a fun show planned for all of you amazing people who have joined us tonight on twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawler Network, as well as all the people who listen to us each and every week via our RSS feeds, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Spotify, all those places, wherever podcasts can be found. And we are going to be doing the final episode for 2018.
It's the final countdown.
Yeah, that could have been your song entry right there.
That should have been it.
That should have been it. Yeah. Well, this will be the final episode for 2018, so you guys will get that. We are going to be going over some of the news about Ashes of Creation Apocalypse and its delay.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, indeed. Pay F for respect. What? Or press F for respect? I don't know.
Pay F.
Pay F for respect. Yeah.
5 Fs. 5 Fs for you.
5 Fs for me, yep. And, of course, we're going to be doing our what we're looking forward to in 2019 out of Intrepid Studios, as well as our mailbag. We will be cleaning all of that out, so we have a fun show planned for you guys. But before we jump into that, I definitely have to say thank you to all of our amazing patrons over at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network for supporting us each and every month. You guys are amazing, helping keep the torches lit, as well as all of our Twitch subs. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And we have a new iTunes review. This comes from Andrew MacArthur. Says a 5-star review. Amazing. You guys are great. I enjoy listening to your podcast to get different views of the game we are all excited about. Truly look forward to all of your viewpoints, Aggelos, Stormswords, Alpha Soul, and Crojack. There you go. Keep up the great work and looking forward to possibly playing this most anticipated MMO ever with you guys. Thank you so much, MacArthur. Andrew MacArthur. That was awesome. Leaving us an iTunes review is an amazing way to help the show get noticed, and it lets people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words. Sometimes they matter. All right, let's go ahead and jump right on into the show. First off, Ashes of Creation was delayed again.
Well, Apocalypse was delayed again.
Yes.
Yes, you have to make that emphasis. You can't just say the MMO has been delayed.
Right.
People will start freaking out and losing their minds.
Well, if
what
you
do you mean it was delayed?
if you ask the internet, the fact that Apocalypse happened, the MMO's delayed.
Yep, everyone's jumping the gun real hard there.
Real
hard.
Yeah. Well, if you weren't aware, they did release the open beta test of Ashes of Creation Apocalypse. I know Crojack, he's been streaming it a lot for the past few days. We did a few games. Oh, you know what I just realized?
What?
Our entire plan for our post show is ruined.
Ruined!
Oh.
Remember?
Drinking some Ripper.
Well, not just that, but the fact we were all going to play a squad game together at the end.
There you go.
I forgot about that. You're right.
I delayed it because I don't even have it downloaded. So
I know Steven listens to this, and he's probably just like, you know what? We're just going to cut that off and just end that. Thanks a lot for that one.
Totally against us.
Yeah, that was our plan. We were going to do at least one squad game together for our post show, but nope, that's all gone. Now we actually have to talk.
It fell apart.
It's all good.
Well, they did have the open beta going for a few days, but they were plagued with a few different issues. I know the website, for instance, is still having issues. I never even got the legendary pack, which I was supposed to get.
No one did. None of the Alpha Kickstarter people got their pack, nor the Alpha 2, Beta 1, or Beta 2s. Their free first legendary path. I don't think anyone got it for free. People who did get it were the ones that bought the Embers and purchased it themselves.
Because
They were having
Storms, didn't you get it?
Yeah, was getting the experience in the legendary.
really,
Yeah.
huh? Maybe a
Didn't
select.
buy any embers, but there you go.
You didn't buy
If
the
I, have
Embers.
any, I did not buy embers.
So you're the favorite.
Yeah, apparently.
That's
favorite.
that's what I'm hearing.
100% confirmed. Stormslord is the
There you
favorite.
go.
Steven, if you're here, can you confirm?
Yeah.
Stormslord is the favorite.
Storms Lord is the favorite.
Yep.
Because I know a few people in our community who were higher up backers who were supposed to get the legendary pass or whatnot were able to get it. But I'm like, well, obviously the script's not going in alphabetical order because you would have thought my name would have came up first, but no, it
Oh, yeah,
didn't.
for sure.
No, and I'm still...
No.
I was this close because we were playing with the guild and everything like that. I'm like, okay, it'll be great. We're going to... And I was just getting so peeved off that I didn't have the legendary. I'm like,
Yep, I hear you.
I wonder if I could... I'm just going to buy the stuff. I was this close to buying it and then just messaging Steve and being like, can I get a refund whenever the script finishes?
I wonder if that was part of the plan to begin with. I wonder if... I don't know. It's possible.
I know quite a few people did it because of the referrals that did start to flood in. I know they're still not done with that either, but of the ones that didn't, I did get on the feed that a lot of the $9.99 packages were bought.
I got a handful of those as well in my feed.
Yeah. And there's nothing on the site that's $9.99, so I'm like, well, okay. You know, clearly part of it's working, so we've seen that. But they had to roll that back, and now it's going back into closed testing up until the 11th of January, I believe that's the date.
I believe the servers are down to the 11th, and at that point in time, it's closed testing. I think
Gotcha.
the entire month of January. I believe they mentioned weekend closed testing. And then knowing Steven, probably intermittent spot testing during the week for them to test stuff.
Right.
But they mentioned wanting to open it back up in February. It's long.
That is a very long time.
I'm going to hit Athena 10 in Sea of Thieves and then get bored and not know what else to do in this next month.
Well, there's always the forest.
Nah.
You can't ban me here. This is my channel.
That word is banned on my Twitch. You can't even mention the word forest. on
I
my
know.
Twitch
I tried to say it to you the one time. You're like, this comment's under What did I say wrong? Oh. I see what you did there. Yeah. So what do you guys think about that? I know the game had quite a few issues. It went up and down. And this is something that happens through development, guys. Like, both Storms and I work in IT developers, so we understand bugs happen. But from time to time, you would get duos and squads would be down, and then solo queuing was all you could do. Then it would flip-flop. It was kind of all over the place. But I noticed that numbers weren't even all that high throughout the few weeks of testing.
Nope.
What are your guys' thoughts?
I don't know how many instances of the Battle Royale we're running, even at peak times. 3, maybe 4 games at a time. So again, this comes down to the lack of push or marketing for this, hoping that their content creator community can push it enough. But again, the problem is when you design this game to be MMO and you Kickstarter it to be MMO, and we all know MMO people just generally aren't into Battle Royales. Now, if they, again, we talked about this, if they started with the Castle Siege, they would have had a way bigger turnout. But they didn't, and here we are.
Because the Castle Siege is something that's actually indicative of a type of system that's going to even be in the end. If they came out and said Battle Royale was going to be an arena mode that was available, I think it would be more popular.
Yeah, like maybe if you, kind of like in World of Warcraft, you can queue up for Capture the Flag, you can queue up for King of the Hill, you can queue up for Capture Point.
Yeah.
So in this game, for player versus player purposes, could you queue up for Battle Royale per se? Possible. But I don't think they want to design it that way. They want it to be like separate.
I guess from a lore perspective, and we know Steven is very big on lore. If you got to read any of the lore that was available from the quest, I know a couple of our guildies have been really intrigued with it. It makes sense how they tied the lore together with Apocalypse, but a battle royale really doesn't make a whole lot of sense in a later game.
No.
Not unless it's like a grand melee tournament. I don't know. But.
I do agree that it made a lot of sense to market it the way they did as a pre to the Exodus. That was a good way to go about it. And Whether or not it was a good idea to do it is a different story.
Yeah.
But that choice was a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like it was. I kind of on the negative side of it. Like I thought it was going to be bad for the game in general, just because a lot of people that'll be into battle royales are basically going to come into it, and then they're like, "Oh, this is an MMO." Like I just feel like it's mixed messages, and like I thought to myself, like if this doesn't go well, like this getting delayed, like this is just going to look bad. And even if it did go well, I wasn't really sure it was good for the game anyway. But that's just my
the big question is how many battle royale people could learn to enjoy an MMORPG. There's such different game styles, different speeds of playing. MMOs are so kind of laid back and chill, right? You grind for hours at a time. Battle royales are high action, 20-minute matches.
It's like different gamer personality types. Like it's like complete opposites, in my opinion. Like you said,
Well, I think we had this conversation once before. There is a difference between a PvPer and an MMO PvPer because there's a different mentality you need to go into it. Anyone who likes PvP can be considered a PvPer, but not everyone who's a PvPer can be considered an MMO PvPer because there's a little bit more of a time commitment involved, a little bit more of a build system involved. It's not such a quick get in, get out kind of thing.
Yep. And there are people that can enjoy both. I'm an example of that. I enjoy player versus player combat of all sorts of types. Whether that's leveling up my MMO character to be very powerful to enjoy PvP, whether that's competitive shooters like Overwatch or I did a bit of Fortnite for a while, or Sea of Thieves, all these types of PvP games. So there are people who do enjoy both, but I consider myself the minority. Like you said, I think most people are like one or the other when it comes to MMO PvP versus just get in and get out PvP.
And the other thing to really bring up to it, and because it's so early, the BR modes of fighting an uphill battle at this point. Yeah, because to be frank, and it's very early, it's not that good. Not compared to the ones that are currently out there.
I was talking. Remember how we had Samurgon the other week?
Yeah.
I was chatting with him in the stream the other day, the very last day of Ash's BR, and we both came to this kind of conclusion that because of the way this battle royale is designed, one of the beautiful things about battle royales is that generally they have a very high skill ceiling. There's levels you can learn and get better and better. Fortnite has such a skill ceiling, learning how to build, learning how to fight, learning how to build and fight, how to edit, where to aim, what weapons to use, all the movement abilities. And it's such a skill ceiling. This particular battle royale doesn't have that. There's not a lot of weapons. There's not a lot of abilities. You don't have to build and worry about that kind of a thing. It's just hiding behind cover and stuff. So you're right. There's not, as far as battle royales go, it's definitely not the best, and that could once again be because of its very infant stage of development.
Yeah,
exactly. Even Fortnite when it came out in MMORPG didn't start at the level they're at. Right?
Oh yeah, no. But the thing with Fortnite is they buckled down and said, "Okay, we're embracing this battle."
Going all in.
And
development.
And that work shows, but I don't know if Ashes would ever get to that point with their focus not being the battle royale.
Hell, they're going to have an uphill battle in the MMO space, something I've talked about for forever with my friends. Because World of Warcraft has more than a decade of development, more than a decade of expansions and content and things you can do and side things you can do and perfecting and honing it and perfecting it. Any other MMO that tries to usurp that has to overcome that. In the beginning, ESO in the beginning, I played it. Believe me, it was a bit rough. SWTOR in the beginning, it was a bit rough. And none of them had the features that World of Warcraft had. So people that jumped ship to try the new toys were disappointed. And it happens every single time in the MMO space.
Yeah. And most of the people who stayed in those games stayed because of the IP. Like,
yes, they love the IP.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're also fighting like the fact that they've invested like how many months of subscriptions and all the money they've put into it in time. Like you got to pull them away. It takes a lot to get them away from that game once they've invested so much into it too.
Yeah, unless they've already started to lose interest, you're gonna be hard to pull.
Right.
Yep, it happens.
Right, and I just don't feel like the battle royale was gonna hit that point. But having it out so early, what do you guys feel like this is gonna push issues? Because I know one of the things that have been brought up a lot is that Castle Sieges, according to the original timeline, was supposed to be out in December. That is not the case at this point.
Yes, Alpha 1 testers are supposed to have access to it and start testing it at the end of this month. Clearly, I feel that's not going to happen. Steven did say he was going to have an update for us potentially tomorrow.
Well, you have 4 days left.
If I recall. Yes, we do have technically have 4
Get it
days left.
quickly.
There's a weekend test.
There could be a weekend test to meet that. Yeah. Even
So
if we
swapping around. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, swapping around testing and really to me isn't indicative of anything, right?
No.
That is a whole reason to swap around testing. This may or may not be in the battle royale. What I like about this decision is it shows where Steven's head really is, right? Because if he wanted just the money to keep going, he would have done this and pulled people over. But his true allegiance, it seems, is the MMO, and that's a good decision. This was probably a hard decision to make. We're going to go forward with it, and then whoops, it's going to pull too many people, it seems, so we got to shut it down.
They could have just shoehorned this in, right? They could have just forced this in and kept it in its buggy state. Sometimes the European servers are down, sometimes the Duo servers are down. They could have just kept working it, but they didn't. They took it down to hopefully make a better product.
Yeah. Hopefully they realized the issues they were having. I don't know for sure, but this points to build issues. When you have things up, things down, things up, things down, and they're swapping like that, technically what they were doing is they're branching probably the wrong way. And if they're not ready for that, they're going to learn a lot from this, but they can't do it and keep it going and work on the MMO.
Yeah. I think from the outside, it just I haven't followed the news quite as closely as you guys probably have, but from my perspective, it just seemed like a very knee-jerk reaction to even go towards the BR space, and then it was then bad things started showing. This is kind of what I was I told you before. This is what I was concerned might happen. You know, in the first place. This is why I was really against it. Not because I'm against BRs. I just don't see what the point is unless it's testing the game, and I don't know. So.
The thing with the Battle Royale is, and this is something that we'd want to say for everybody, and it is a common, I guess, thought that's coming around right now. I know I'm dealing with a lot of questions and comments about it. Crojack's dealing with it constantly. People are like, what in a Battle Royale have to do with an MMO? And on the surface level, you're right. Not a lot.
Pretty much nothing.
Yeah, pretty much nothing from, bouncing doesn't matter because the combat system's not even going to be the same.
Right.
You could argue about assets. You could use certain assets, but at this point, you even mentioned they don't have that many assets. There's not a ton of things being added into the game. It's the server infrastructure and the back end that they can get up and going. So that's...
actually, I think they learned they can't. Is what I think they learned, which is a good lesson to learn prior to bringing out the real game, right? I think they learned what they had designed didn't work the way they thought it did.
Yeah. I don't know, going back, without actually being privy to the code that they're using, not knowing exactly what went wrong and where. What was the problem? Was it making too many calls back to the database and causing it to crash? What was the issue there? Was it the cloud server, which I still tend to think that part of it's the cloud server because we're seeing a lot of that with the website, constant cloud server issues. Showing, I'm following the code on there. What it's saying is this is the server you're hitting. This is the cloud server you're hitting, but there's a disconnect between the cloud server you hit, whether it's Azure or AWS, and the actual web server here. There is a broken link between the two. I'm sure that's probably, they're dealing with the website. They may have two different, but they're still dealing with the same infrastructure, same cloud settings, that if the website's having this many issues, I feel like the game would be having just as many.
We had mentioned they were doing their own tweaks, if not writing some of their own back-end code to Unreal, right?
Yeah.
To have it do that networking. This is indicative of when you try to build something, you have issues. I mean, because nothing you design works the way it's supposed to. Everything changes. And this is an obvious change, so they have to go back and redirect it. It was a good choice. It's a tough choice, but it was a good choice. Say, hey, you know what? We may have to go back to the drawing board to see how these servers work.
All right. I'm seeing chat rooms even talking about the issues, the error 502s from the website. That is something that is very common, the bad gateway problems. I don't know. I feel like that might have something to do with it. I would love to get one of their developers on here to talk about it if they would. I don't know if they really would. It's like airing out the dirty laundry. No one really wants to talk about it till after it's resolved, but maybe that would be something we could do.
I'd love to have an interview like that, right? To be able to walk through it, even and then talk about things we can avoid, but just to figure out what they're doing and how they're doing it, and to work through all that. That would be an absolutely interesting discussion.
All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and move into our mailbag, because I think it's a good time to do that. And one of the questions was asked, and I thought this was very apt to kind of bring this up first, this came from Mr. Powers D. He asked us a while ago, and I wanted to get this answered. With all the negative publicity around Ashes of Creation Apocalypse, is at any point in time negative publicity a good thing, or will it be a good thing for the MMO?
Who wants to go first?
I'd say ask EA. My answer's no.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, it depends on the scale and the depth of the negativity, right? Is it just people hating on the game because people hate on things, or are there fundamental things wrong with the game where people are just like, okay, this sucks, stop? It depends on the depth. It depends on the severity of the negativity. If the product is good, there's going to be negativity, that's fine, you can't avoid it. But if the product is good, you're okay. But if there's issues with the product and negativity rings true, that can be damaging.
Right now, it seems like so much of the negativity is just revolving around the fact that it's a BR mode.
And that is just because Battle Royales right now are the thing. And because they're the thing, you're going to have people going, I hate the thing.
If it was 2 years ago, it would be a survival game, you know?
Or it would have been, what was big before that? MOBAs. MOBAs were big before Battle Royales were big. Remember, League of Legends got super popular, then all of a sudden on your phones, you got all these little MOBA games on your phones. Imagine if, this is before, but they decided to build a MOBA arena game side game.
I still remember after Witcher 3 came out, they came out with a Witcher Arena MOBA game to play.
Yeah, they made a Witcher MOBA. Like, come on.
I actually really did enjoy that one, but just because I like The Witcher so much. But that, I guess you're right. It was MOBAs after that, and then we hit... It was after Ark came out, and I don't know why Ark was as big as it was, but... that really kicked off the survival game genre, and then we had 900 spin-offs of survival games. We had Ark,
Remember
we had
when
Conan.
Hearthstone first came out, and they were rolling in the dough from their virtual card packs, and everyone was like, wait a minute, we're also going to make a virtual card game.
Yeah, but
So right now it's the Battle Royale thing. And the game mode, if you're a fan of the game mode, yes, fine. If you're not a fan of the game mode, that's fine. It currently is a fantastic, popular game series. Game type. So we already know, we talked about them using the Battle Royale, the Castle Siege, and the Horde mode, free-to-play modes as a content funnel, as a people funnel. But without a proper working product, it's making a very bad first impression.
Yeah, and I mean, that's sort of what we're seeing at this point. I feel like when Margaret gets in, I think probably the first thing that she should probably start doing is organizing some PR statements about the BR mode, and how what it's actually being moved towards is the MMO.
It's actually
and they really need details of what they're getting. Like what we just asked is, I really think what they need to be bringing up. Like this is the data we're gathering from, because right now it's just a nebulous feeling. Like what are you getting? Oh, it's helping the MMO. Well, to the non-programmer, and even to some programmers, it's like, okay, so what are you getting from this?
Yeah, be a little more transparent of what that is.
I think that if they would be more transparent with what data they're actually collecting from the Battle Royale, that would probably ease a lot of our minds.
One thing I would love to see from the CM, and I'm itching to see this because this will help my job and everyone's job right now. Maybe I personally am not doing a good enough job explaining things, but having a unified voice to explain what is going on, the purpose of APOC, and all of that to everybody in a way that everybody can hear, because the comment section of my videos, Discord, the forums, are rife with people who don't understand what's happening, don't understand the purpose of the Battle Royale, don't understand the purpose of APOC, how it helps the MMO. So hopefully the CM can get behind that and try and unify that message and get out to as many people as possible to clarify the air there.
I mean, to be frank, we don't know. I'm not saying like We don't.
Yeah.
We just
I
have
know, I've got
faith that we have faith in Steven that what he's saying is true. But if someone were to say, "Okay, prove it," I'd be like, you know.
Yeah.
we are taking their word for a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are.
And
Yeah. In terms of like, oh, sorry, I was gonna say in terms of like the negative question, I think for me, like it seems like Steven, the message I got before the BR was like, we want to stand out, we want to be a different MMO that like brings the genre forward, and then like when they kind of, to me, this is like settling on like a fad. That's the way it came across to me. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but like, you know, that kind of gives me a mixed message as like a person trying to like get excited about it, you know?
And that comes down to their delivery of the information.
Exactly.
How they deliver the
Absolutely.
message. I mean, at first, it was nothing more than a combat test. I called it to my audience the combat test for the longest time. And then they gave it a name because people were really upset and confused about Alpha 1. Is this Alpha 1? Is this what I paid for? Then they gave it a name and they made it a side project. So there was so much confusion through there, and it was never explained to everyone in an efficient way.
The last time I was on the podcast, we were talking about the NDA question about like, should they be opening up the NDA right now? And I feel like this is exactly what I was worried about, which is like, you know, they opened up this door of the NDA, but they obviously were not prepared for it. That, like you said, you know, not having a unified message and opening up all this can of worms without, you know, I just feel like it's just opening up more and more problems, and they're not really. They need to get it together for sure.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's very
No,
true.
she's gonna have to hit the ground running. She's gonna have a lot of work.
Yep.
No, it definitely is the case. We just don't know. And to the people who are only following tangentially, just like a little bit, just like, oh yeah, that new MMO, I'll watch that. They see things that they're not real excited about.
Yeah, the casual observer keeping an eye on the MMO space because they're looking for their next MMO game is seeing all of this.
Right. And I mean, even when we talked about the combat test and we got all that negative feedback, let's face it, that negative feedback essentially spawned what we now know as Apocalypse, because people were seeing Alpha 1. And this is going back to Mr. Powers' D question about negative feedback. How does it affect the game? In this case, I honestly do not believe that Apocalypse, as we are seeing it now, was originally in the plan 6 months ago.
Nope.
Yeah, I agree.
Nope.
100%.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
It felt like a knee-jerk reaction, like I said. It felt really rushed.
I don't want to say it the wrong way, but I figured somebody whispered in Steven's ear that this is a way to go. And that I don't think he realized that was the wrong thing to do. And then after what started happening, he's like, well, okay, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. Because it did come out of nowhere.
Right. I mean, I honestly believe this is my headcanon for how Apocalypse came out. We're just gonna say Jeffrey's over there messing around with something. I'm pulling Jeffrey into this, just doing his thing. Hey, look at that. We'll just add this little code here. Okay, happy day. Hey, guess what? If we add a storm, it's a battle royale. Like a couple people are like hiding in a corner. Like Steven walks. What are you guys doing? Nothing. What are you working with? We're just messing around, and we made battle royale. You know, it was our break time. We wanted something to play, and you block all the firewall ports, so we can't play Fortnite. So we made it in Apocalypse. You're in Ashes. Oh, that's a good idea.
Good headcanon. There you go.
That's my headcanon. So there you go. That's just a little joke I have. But I mean, honestly, they even said during their live stream it was something that they just threw together very quickly because they wanted to test the combat system, the action combat, and it evolved over time. And all the negative feedback we got about the combat test and it not really being part of the MMO then sprung what we got APOC. So negative feedback really did add to the delay in, I'll say, the MMO at this point, whether perceived or actual. So
yeah, so far perceived. We have to wait and see if it's actual.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, delays happen in MMOs, so
for sure.
I fully suspect, and I'm a realist in this, I know Steven said he wanted this before 2020. That is, in my opinion, insanely optimistic. And even without this mode, I would have said they would have been delayed at least a year.
Unless they've got some stuff behind the curtain that they've not shown people, like, if their first footage of their MMO, the MMO map, the node system, if their first footage of that blows us away because they've been working on it for so quietly, hard in the background, great. But without seeing that, we're left seeing an MMO footage, which is the Battle Royale map, using MMO elements as our last basis of where the development's at. And that doesn't paint a very optimistic picture of a 2019 release.
And because even if you have the systems in place, let's say they have the map, they somehow managed to figure out the combat system, okay? We got those two things. You still have some major things like quest writing, script writing for events, you know, like making the world feel alive. You can throw us into an open world like the Battle Royale, and we can have fun in it, but that's not indicative of the actual game. Even the Alpha Zero, they threw us in, they had maybe 1 or 2 quests, and it was a sped up thing, but that doesn't a vibrant world make. It was, okay, 1 or 2 quests, and you know, you turned in the quest, all of a sudden the node's level 3 because it was 3,000,000% experience, you know?
Yeah. And that's something we forget. It's not just the combat, and it's not just the map. Like you said, it's the content.
Yeah.
The sheer amount of content, of lines of text for the quest. You mentioned the quest. How many quests are they going to have? Hundreds?
Yeah.
That's a lot of text and a lot of stories they have to weave and write and create. And then all the armor and just so much.
We still haven't seen 4 of the 5 races.
Yeah.
I mean,
what do the starting zones look like?
Arguably, you could just put pointed ears on humans, and there you have elves. But or you could delete elves, and it would even be better.
Yeah. Anyone in the podcast listening, is there going to be an elf? Yeah. No. Sorry. Humans all the way.
Humans all the way. Yeah.
We're the master race.
That's right. That's right. Anyway,
dwarves are a good second.
Yeah, dwarves are pretty cool.
I'll take a dwarf. Dwarves are cool.
Yeah, dwarves are awesome. All right, so that was that question. Moving on, we have Michael asked a question. This one actually is pretty fun. He goes, "Hi, thanks for the podcast from the ashes. A subject that I would be interested in would how to prepare for the real MMO. In other words, what do we know about the actual game that is likely to make it into the release game, and how much, if anything, in the alpha testing will be useful knowledge for the released MMO, i.e. combat, controls, gear, spells, etc. I played the alpha once, but because the test isn't really my kind of game, thinking about BR at this point, I only tried it once. Am I missing out on learning anything that would be useful to me in the real MMO by not playing it more? We have so many content creators with so many opinions. Meanwhile, we're in the alpha test that's a different genre than the actual MMO. It's confusing to know what is and what isn't useful information to learn for the real MMO. Thanks again, Michael." Okay. This is kind of a loaded question. And the reason why I say that, in its current iteration, and I think each and every one of us would agree with this, in its current iteration, nothing in Apocalypse.
Nothing.
Well, let's caveat that yet. Nothing in the current form of Apocalypse, meaning the Battle Royale mode, other than lore, if you like lore, and that doesn't really help you in the game, just helps you with your immersion, is going to be helpful. Because it's not the main combat system. The map's not even the same. Classes aren't in yet. You know, there's not a lot from the current test. Go ahead.
The only thing is the abilities in some of the armor are taken from some of the classes. For example, Catfall, so far, yeah. And that's the second part of my conversation here, is a ranger ability. However, just because they work a certain way in a Battle Royale, where the Battle Royale is the game mode, and the parameters of the game mode are structured that way, doesn't mean they want that to work the same way in an MMORPG. Do they want the ranger jumping on top of buildings in the MMO, or jumping up inside of caves and caverns and dungeons? Maybe not. So I don't know what you can draw from this game mode to prepare you for your MMO experience from a player's perspective.
I will say this, from a player perspective, in some of the later modes, the castle sieges and the horde modes, the only thing from a player perspective for an MMO that you could get out of those systems is finding a guild and learning how your guild plays together.
Very true.
But that's more of a social aspect, because MMOs are social. If you're playing an MMO solo, I'm going to be frank and say you're wrong. Because
you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
You're just doing it wrong.
There's not saying you can't solo sometimes, but MMOs were meant to be a communal thing. So
absolutely,
those I think would be useful. If you have a friendly guild, a guild you want to actually learn to play with and be involved with, yes, those modes that will allow you to actually, even the Battle Royale, if you're into 4-man squads or whatever, could be useful. But not from a game perspective. This would translate to any MMO you're playing, really. Not just Ashes of Creation.
Just like if you played Warcraft 3 back in the day, and then you jumped into World of Warcraft, Warcraft 3 is not going to prepare you to play World of Warcraft. The RTS is not going to prepare you to play the MMO. You may appreciate the story, you may appreciate the characters more, the immersion, we talked about that, but from a gameplay perspective, 2 different games, same world, different experiences. What?
Oh, chat. When the actual alpha testing of the MMO comes out, though, I will say there could be a lot to glean from that.
True.
Because you'll be able to play with class kits. Yes, the balancing probably is going to be worked on all the way to launch and even post-launch.
And it should be.
And it should be, yeah. But what it will do is it will allow you to learn the classes. And one of the things that's most interesting about most alpha tests is when they want to do focus testing, they will say, okay, we're testing the level 30 to 40 content and boost you. This is a good opportunity for you as a player to pick classes that you normally wouldn't and test them out.
Absolutely.
Without having to level them all the way up by yourself normally. Especially if you're not someone who's a huge altaholic and you're not really sure what it is you want at this point. I'm a one character kind of guy.
I'm an all in, all chips in on one guy kind of guy too.
If I have an alt, it's a bank alt and it never gets played. It's literally holding stuff. It is It is my house Carl from Skyrim. Yep. I am sworn to carry your burdens. That is what my alts are.
He's your mule. That's it. He's a mule.
That's it.
They're all named Lydia or some form of Lydia, you know, and there you go.
Yes. Yes.
God,
all the Skyrim fans got that.
What's the elf's name? The archer in the first town?
Oh, Fendrel. Fendrel?
Yeah. Him too.
Yep. Yeah. So, my personal opinion is when the actual alpha testing comes out, there will be a lot you can glean. There's things you can glean with how the crafting system works. Learning and possibly, depending on if they don't randomize it later on, well, they may do it, you know, how the nodes are placed, learning placement, where things are going to actually be. What about you guys? I've been talking a lot.
We had a discussion in a previous podcast about randomization and nodes, and that conversation went on for like an hour and a half, it felt like.
It did.
It sure did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean they may not randomize it at launch, but they could say, okay, we put everything here, and it may not be randomized when the game actually launches, but we don't want people to figure out what node is what yet.
Yes, absolutely.
I could see them doing that.
If they can get nodes working for 1 or 2 nodes, they can get nodes working for most of their nodes, right?
Yeah. So
they won't reveal all the fun around the world and just have you guys focus around here. Yeah, the Alpha 1 that we're supposed to get in second quarter of next year, which is spring leading into summer, yeah, we're going to get a lot of ability to learn a lot about the MMO in that time. However, my lord, can things change. Things can change drastically. You could be playing a cleric who has this beautiful spell ability that deals a good chunk of damage, and you're like, man, I love this. 2 months later, the devs might go, not so good, and get rid of it. So absolutely, you can learn things in the alpha testing, but my lord, can things change on a dime if they decide, you know what, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, we're scrapping this, we're adding this, whatever.
Yeah. Definitely for a real alpha, that will happen. Keldor, what about you? What are your thoughts? Would you have any advice for this for Michael?
I mean, I'm not a really good person to ask because I haven't played it a lot, so I don't. But I kind of agree with everything you said. I just don't see much that you could really gather from. There's again, all the points you guys have made. There's so much that can change for one thing. So even if this had more of the combat system in it, that's going to change. So bringing in getting experience and it actually helping you get into the game, I don't really see it. Yeah. But I'm against the BR thing to begin with, so I'm probably not the best person to ask.
I don't even talk about the BR so much as when I even refer to even alphas and betas, things you can learn to prepare. I mean, one of the things that I would probably end up doing is learning how the crafting works. You're going to see people already working on websites and stuff. They're going to try to chronicle everything that's out there. They're going to make a new player guide. There will be a new player guide, I'm telling you right now, before they actually release the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Random thought. The first phase of alpha, quarter 2, that's first 20 levels, 25% of the map, a little bit of crafting, nodes to level 3. I imagine we couldn't gather too much concrete information from that, but by the time they roll out to Alpha 2, which is supposed to be the whole game, I bet you we can make much stronger decisions on things regarding what class can do what class can't do what, and that kind of stuff.
And by that point in time, the late stage alpha, most systems are already going to be in. It's going to be the tweaking side. Because once you're doing beta, you're not making changes. I'm sorry.
Beta systems are in. It's the balancing that's going to change.
Balance will change in beta. Systems won't. Alpha is the time you add systems. By the strictest definition, alpha testing is when it is not feature complete. Beta testing is when it's feature complete, but you're balancing and making stress testing. Yeah.
I think Steven said as much in the one live stream that did recently that they mentioned, that was the question, right? Betas, how long are they? They mentioned that the point when it comes to betas is just hit the servers with all these people and hope nothing breaks.
I mean, that's what Atlas is doing right now, right?
Poor Atlas.
You have, in the real world, you have all sorts of studies on where people go based on, the weenies, like in Disney World, they know you're going to go to the right. Automatically, people walk in and go to the right. They've studied that for years, for decades. We don't have that in MMOs. We don't know where they're going to go unless we give them something to go to. So we got to see where they're going to gather. And if they do gather, all of a sudden you got half the server population in one quarter. What are you going to do to stop that? Do you need to drive them apart, or you need to balance for it?
I get that. We talked about in a previous live stream about a previous podcast of World of Warcraft's system of keeping people on rails through content. The benefit of that is you can spread out people in a world.
Exactly.
They mentioned, like, I remember the most recent expansions that you could start your expansion loving experience in one of 3 different spots and then circle back and do the other ones later. There's a benefit to that. Like you mentioned, you don't want everyone being on one section of the server. I don't think they're going to have... No, wait, I think they did mention that you could come in at multiple different gates.
There's supposed to be 4 different gates that are supposed to represent each of the racials, because the humans will have a gate. The elves will have a gate.
Split.
Yeah, it's race split because each one is supposed to give a feeling of lore for the individual races. The humans coming back, the elves coming back, the dwarves, and then the orcs. The Tonar don't get anything because they're already there.
Yep.
Ashes of segregation. I see that.
Remember how node development architecture is based off of predominant race, which means day 1 of servers or week 1, month 1, or whatever, those first nodes in those first 4 quadrants are going to be the elves are down here with the elven architecture, the dwarves are over here with the dwarven architecture. But I wonder as a year goes by, 2 years go by, I wonder how those races are going to shift around the map and how the metropolises of different cultures are going to shift around the map. That's going to be really cool to watch. I can't wait.
What happens when they mingle too, right? You're going to start having balancing between all that.
That'll be fun. Looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
A little social study. A little, be kind of cool.
Right. And I will take one question from chat because this is probably the most pressing. Where is Hypercore Ripper on this podcast?
That's a great question. Where is Hypercore Ripper on this podcast? Hypercore Ripper in the chat, please respond. Where are you on this podcast today, my friend?
We'll have to get him next time because he just wasn't here and ready. People are suggesting he's behind the bar, but my drink's getting low, and Hypercore, come fill this.
Rip,
yep.
Refills?
Refills? I am not leaving him a good tip, all right, because he's been awful. And I see him in chat. I need more notice. We gave you like 2 weeks.
Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single week.
I'm telling you. Anyway, moving on to the next question. This is from Kane Thorbreaker. I see in chat. VR ready. From what I've heard from your recent shows and going back to episode 1, Real trooper there. And catching up, so I'm not sure if this has been covered, but will Ashes of Creation be VR or have a VR component? I'm seeing a lot of similarities with systems that are in some of the new lit RPG genre of audiobooks. I love lit RPGs, by the way. I just finished your season's episode, and I'm loving what you guys do. Thoughts about immersion, make it seem like a real world, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in game. First off, if you like lit RPGs, one of my favorite ones that has ever come out is called The Land from Alarin Kong. It's like 8 books long. Fantastic. You should check it out. It's on Audible. Cool. They don't support us. They should. If I had an Audible referral link, I could give that to you now, but I don't. But still, go pick up the book. Anyway, lit RPGs off the table. Going back, VR and VR component.
Jeez.
I don't... You know, from an MMO side, the only MMO that I know that actually was trying some things with VR was Eve. And they made their own separate game, especially like Eve Valkyrie or something like that, and until that got canceled. Like
everyone knows, as soon as they give us proper MMORPG VR, half the world's population is getting plugged in and never coming back out again. It's just gonna happen.
Right.
We shouldn't go down that road.
It's gonna be all about the blue or red pill, right?
Yeah, more or less, yes.
Honestly, I couldn't imagine doing VR in what we played so far, which is the
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale.
Oh, my head would hurt so bad.
But in VR, that's what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to do everything in VR.
Yeah. And
right, but we're not ready for that yet.
No.
No.
And I don't feel like a third-person perspective that they showed us is really good for VR either. That's essentially just your screens up close. It's not giving you a VR perspective if you're not in first person. Yeah.
Yep, and it would need to be.
And this is something I don't even really know about, but do they even have first person?
In the Battle Royale, no. Because generally most Battle Royales are third person, right?
I don't even think in the MMO they do. Because I
thought they did. I thought they had the choice.
I will
They'll
say,
do.
I will say that even ESO originally wasn't going to have a first-person view because they didn't want to have to render the hands and the weapons. Because that takes extra rendering time because you then have to make sure that fits on your screen and looks good. That's why most games, if you do first-person in World of Warcraft, it doesn't actually... It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good, you know. And
they make a choice, right? You make a choice whether you go first person or third person. Typically, you don't. ESO is unusual. Well, Alice can do it too, but you have to make a choice usually because you have to render, like you said, one way or the other. If you're doing both, you're almost doubling the work you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be insanely surprised if they actually did anything with VR. I don't even think they'll have any kind of VR component.
Nope.
I would as well. I don't think the world is ready for VR because not everybody wants to wear a helmet.
Yeah.
No. And
technically has a long way to go.
And what VR we have is clunky at best. The best example of VR, I know, Storms, you were playing with the Skyrim VR. You couldn't do that in an MMO because it's like a point and click to move type thing.
Yes.
It wouldn't work with your normal controls.
If you have the PS4, you have the controllers, you can walk with the controllers, right? So you're moving with the controllers to do it, not teleporting, but you are walking. But like Crowjack had said, you get motion sickness the way they walk because your head turns differently in a game than it does in real life.
Yep.
In real life, your eyes go first, then your head follows. In VR, it's at the same time, and you're not ready for that. You have to program that in, and they haven't done that yet.
And also, MMOs in first person are just hard to play. You almost want that camera zoomed out as far as you can go because you need the information of what's happening around you. Don't stand in this. What's this mob doing over here? What's my ally doing over here? You need as much space to see in an MMO. So first person is so hard.
Yeah,
it is.
And I mean, if you played ESO, it's one of the best ones that has one of the best first person. Playing the entire game in first person.
No thanks.
You're not going to be doing the super hardcore dungeons or raids. You're just not.
because you don't see all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it is. It's really good, but you're right. You're missing a third, if not more, of the information that you should have.
Yep.
In order to play
you
it
want that
effectively.
immersion, go for it.
Oh yeah, if I'm single player questing or just even doing like delves or the low stuff in ESO, yeah, I'll go first person because it's very immersive. It's fun to do. But if I'm doing anything that requires any sort of technical skill, oh yeah, no, it's out so I can actually see what's going on. So anyway, final thing we're going to talk about tonight because we're already running low on time, but what are we looking forward to seeing in 2019? Because guess what, guys? This is the final episode of 2018. It has been a crazy year. This will come out on the 31st, the last day of the year. What are we looking for out of Ashes of Creation in 2019? Caldor, you go first. I'm going to make you go first.
I think I'm most looking forward to just kind of moving into the next phase of the test where we'll actually get to start to see some of the systems we've been talking about for like the last year and a half or two. That's probably the number one thing. I would say on a side note, I'd really like to see them start to release some things about the lore of the game. Like, even if it's like little, like, I don't know, articles about like, you know, little things people wrote down, like journals or something, just something to get like into the actual game itself that will start focusing on that. I think that'd be kind of cool. So
someone hasn't been paying much attention to the actual BR because they actually do release little lore snippets for each quest.
Oh yeah.
That's actually...
Hopefully the new website and some blogs will help to quench that thirst for you.
Yeah.
Crojack, what about you?
For me, I think it will reverse so much damage and do a whole lot of good if their first phase of MMO alpha testing starts in Q2, like on their roadmap. If they can focus on that goal, get that goal done, and get that testing on time in Q2, sometime in Q2, it will do a world of good for their image, a world of good for their community, a world of good for the MMO goal and everything. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm praying for that.
Right. Storms.
Oh, absolutely. Alpha 2 hitting when it's supposed to. Even a quarter, it's a large number. It's a fantastic thing. That'd be really good. I am also looking very much forward to the Horde mode. Even though it was supposed to be out this year, I'm really looking forward to see how that works.
All right. I'm going to be a little different from everyone else. I am looking forward to getting to meet Margaret.
Oh, there you go.
I'm really interested to see what kind of PR movements that the company's going to make to actually get more information out to the players to combat so much of the negative information. Because let's face it, so much of what we're facing right now, myself, Storms, Crojack, I'd say Kelador, but he hasn't been streaming it much. So, so much of what we've been getting has been questions about the MMO, and regardless of the fact that we're content creators for it, anytime we say anything that's not anti-Intrepid Studios, all we get called is shills, right? Like,
I've been called a shield so many times. I've been called a shield more doing this than I have on my cryptocurrency related YouTube channel.
Nice.
Like, it's bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, even us, it's like, that's what we're getting because we're replying what we know from the developers and what we're trying to get the right information out. But because it's not coming from an official source, whether or not you're an official content creator like myself and Crojack, it doesn't matter. People see us as not being on the payroll and therefore just company shills and not actually taking the information.
It's cool to be negative. It's not fun to be positive.
Sure.
And if you are positive, you're clearly a shill.
Yeah.
All the cool kids are negative and they bash things. That's what they do.
So edgy. Edgelords, all of them.
Yep. All of them.
No, and it is true, but I'm really looking forward to the PR incentives to see how that's going to be growing. I think when the alpha phase 2, the persistent alpha's up, because that'll be allowed to be streamed because it's not under NDA anymore, or shouldn't be.
I wonder if Alpha 1 will be under NDA.
It's not.
So far, no one NDA?
No, I mean,
Fantastic.
all NDA has been dropped unless they decide to bring it back up. At this point, all NDA has been dropped. So people will be able to stream the actual MMO, but even if they don't, having live streams, more consistent live streams being brought up from the developers. I think I want to see them get away from Q&A development streams. I find them boring.
They need to what's the word I want? Screen the questions beforehand and have a list of their questions going into it, new ones that they've never answered before, as opposed to pulling it up and going, this one.
Yeah, but then you don't get the answers of like why they hate our guild.
Because it's your guild.
I know.
Like what's so weird about this question?
I know, but they wouldn't read that ahead of time.
No, they wouldn't. You're right. Unless they loved it and they added it to the list.
You know, they could have. Yeah. Well, he said, "Hey, look, here's one from." Oh, that's funny. I still have that clip.
I don't know.
I have that clip. It's a great clip.
It's a good clip.
But what I would like to see is I would like just to see more gameplay streams from the developers. And have them DM'd by Steven. So there's a little bit of lore reason behind it. Q&A, because at this point, how much of the MMO do we already know about? We've been doing a show for 75 episodes, which, by the way, episode 75 is a milestone when it comes to podcasts, just so you know. We're getting close to that mythical 100 number, which almost, what is the actual thing? It's something like 93% of podcasts never make it to 100.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah, it's really high. Podcasts tend to pod fade very early. We've already seen that on a couple podcasts that have been done for Ashes of Creation because there's not a lot to talk about, so they just kind of fell off the face of the earth. But I would like to see more streams and interacting with the community in a more structured way, and I think Margaret will be good at doing that. So
that's her job.
Yeah, that'll. This is what what I would like to see her do is actually outline and give them an outline of the stream each and every time and develop all the talking points that they're going to hit on before they go into a live stream.
Adds a level of polish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of like how Apple has just taken things and made them so user interface friendly and user experience friendly. They need a bit of polish.
Yeah.
Intrepid devs.
I mean even our show is that way. We outline everything so that it's not just a bunch of us going, yeah.
They do need that direction, and that having that person will help do that. They'll help identify and weed to what they really need to be showing everybody.
Right.
But you need to have somebody whose job is to focus on that. Right now, they haven't had that. This is the person's sole focus. This is what they do day in, day out.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a lot. Go ahead. Sorry. They're doing so many things on a daily basis. I mean, they're making a freaking MMO. Like, they don't have time to sit there and write all this stuff out. They need someone. That's true. I mean,
that's right. Absolutely. It's a very important part of a team.
To control the message, and the words control the message sounds kind of negative in a way, but to apply a filter to the message so that it's consistent the entire time.
Yes. Consistency is good. That's what makes... Why do you think when Blizzard, other than the Diablo thing, we'll take that away, when they do their opening show, their presentation letter, it goes over normally so well? And I mean, even this year's it went well until Diablo came out.
It's very practiced.
Yes, it's practiced and brought up. That's how you get the hype. That's how, my goodness, the Anthem, even, if you don't like Anthem, but their presentation was spot on. When you start digging into what the game actually is, then you kind of go, oh, okay.
And it is possible to be authentic and genuine, but still have a unified voice.
Sure.
It is possible to
you have to be, right? You absolutely have to be transparent and open, but you want to also make sure you have that you said, the unified voice. Speaking with that position the same way all the way across the channel.
Yeah.
And that's what personal.
Yeah. When you do an open development like this, it's really hard to keep the hype up this long. So you have to have, if you don't, say for me, I've lost interest. I'll be honest. I've lost a lot of interest because I watch these streams and they just talk about the same stuff over and over. And I'm like, well, why am I watching this? I'm wasting my time. I want to hear about, I mean, it's hard to keep the hype up, but that, they have to have, even if it's just a little bit, something new every time, but they're just
feel you are not alone in that regard. I feel that there is a good chunk of the community who were very hyped about this when it first was announced, have lost interest. However, Alpha 1, the real first MMO Alpha, when that comes out, and the streams start, and the YouTube videos start, and we're starting to showcase all the real stuff, it's going to build quick.
Absolutely.
And I even see someone in chat, they're saying Star Citizen gets grief because it's Star Citizen, but their video logs are around the verse they are insanely well produced. And that's something that I really do feel like you said about the unified message. Right now, I feel like the entire unified message sits with Steven. Everyone else has little bits of it, but Steven has everything. It should be
and we
Margaret.
talked about this in another podcast.
Yeah.
Do we want to lose the essence of that? The essence of Steven's enthusiasm and joy?
No, and I think he will still be there, but Margaret can take his message and disseminate it in a proper way to everybody.
Exactly, because that's her. Again, her job. I don't want to repeat it, but her job to do that and focus on that. Steven's job is not to focus on that.
Yeah,
his job is to get it out, but he's got to make sure the company is going forward. Right? He needs somebody who can take that message, like you said, take this unified message, and take it out to the people.
Right.
And, I mean, I was gonna say, I personally would rather them release a non-live video that was well produced as opposed to a live video that's all over the place. That's my personal opinion.
Sure.
I wonder once they have the MMO world kind of figured out that they'll be able to start doing that. Because they haven't shown that yet. They've refused to show that yet because it's not ready. Once that's ready and they can start showing you footage in their world, I think we'll see a lot more of that.
Well, that's how so much of the hype was brought up before was from the videos or the nodes 1 and 2, how well they were produced. Yep. I still watch those.
They're great.
Hey, that's what I'm looking for. 2019 nodes 3.
Node 3.
Node 3.
It's 2023. We're going to see Nodes 3. We'll have Metropolises for 3 years. We'll see Nodes 3 in 2023.
Yeah. Anyway, guys.
Because Project will write it.
Yeah. This is the end of our show. I'm going to have to cut it here because guess what? We're running over time. But again, you can follow all of our amazing co-hosts. Kellador, where can people find you?
Pretty much Kellador on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. It's all, just search my name, you'll find it.
There you go. Since
he was familiar.
Yeah, since he was our guest, I figured I should let him go. But of course, you can follow the rest of our normal co-hosts. We got Stormslord, Digital Piper Studios. Check him out there. And of course, Crowjack everywhere around the verse is Crowjack. And of course, myself, Aggelos, Aggelos. Yes, there you go. You can follow me. I had to think how to spell my entire name, but there you go. You can follow everything we do over at DungeonCrawlerNetwork.com. There you can find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure to check out our Patreon program at patreon.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork. If you want to help support the show, you can also do that by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes they matter. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you next time. See you later.